That's good. Whereas if you didn't, that means you got an extra hour a daytime, and that's good too. Spirituality, a relationship to the spiritual. This is something most of us seek. I hear about it a lot. We want more of it, even if we don't really know what it means. But on some level, we do hope to understand, or at least come into relation with the overarching forces of life, with ultimacy, with being, and with the ground of being. We envision the ultimate in many ways, and our religious tradition gives us full latitude to seek understanding on our own, to form images that are meaningful to us and useful in our own lives. There's no reason that we need to make one single decision that defines our spiritual sensibilities for us or for others or for the future. In this brief statement, UU minister Scotty McLennan recounts his personal understandings of God. And before I continue, I should describe Scotty McLennan was, among other things, the Dean of Spiritual Life at Stanford University. He attended Yale. His roommate was Gary Trudeau, who wrote the Doonesbury comics. And Gary Trudeau's character, Scott Sloan, the Reverend Scott Sloan, was a little bit modeled after William Sloane Coffin, but mostly after Scotty McLennan. McLennan wrote, "As a young child, I thought of God as a magical, all-powerful being who was responsible for everything that happened, good or bad. Later in childhood, I began to feel that I had a cause and effect relationship to God, gaining some control myself over good and bad results by how I prayed, petitioned, and behaved. Then in my teenage years, God became personalized for me as the ideal parent, unconditionally accepting and loving. And by the time I was in my 20s, God had become an impersonal force or an energy in the universe. I still resonate most closely with William Wordsworth's way of describing God in Tintern Abbey. A sense of sublime something, far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, objects of all thought, and rolls through all things." When I speak of your spirituality, I don't necessarily mean your notion of God, although if you have such a notion, that would be included. I understand the spiritual as that which holds the miracle of life that are within me and beyond me. I like Forrest Church's image, that which is greater than all and yet present in each. The underlying meaning of the word spirit is breath, and this is a profound metaphor for what we are talking about. Breath is how we take in of the life-giving essence from the world around us, and then release this essence back to the world. It is the most life-sustaining activity we consciously perform. Breath, spirit. When we consider the spiritual, we're drawn to our presence to and our engagement with the forces of life, to how we connect to what surrounds us, whether it's to people, to our world, to our cosmos. We use many words for this idea: God, Spirit of life, the divine, all creation, the eternal, source of all, energy, love. I just printed out a sheet on the UA website that had like 100 of these things on it. And I decided you didn't need to hear them all. Just like I didn't read the 99 names of Allah when I talked about Muslim. We know that as UUs, we subscribe to the notion of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Because we hold no dogma or creed, we encourage you to figure things out. And this is all very forgiving, and it leads many others to claim that as UUs, you can believe in anything. What we don't say often enough is not only do we allow you to search, we expect you to do the work of trying to figure things out and actively engage in finding and understanding those truths and images that sustain your center, your self-understanding, and your moral and ethical essence. Ours should not be an easy faith, in good part because there's no answer sheet to tell you when you've got it right. You just have your own intuition, your own sense of harmony. There are lots of ways to develop your own religious understanding, to create your own theology, and to try to work out a system that helps you understand and deal with the larger questions in life. My assumption is that this is one of the many things that you hope to gain by being part of this community at Beverly Unitarian, by coming to church here. And my deepest hope is that you do find some support within this church community for developing your spiritual sensibilities, whether it's from me, from our services, from one another. And if you feel something in this area is lacking, please let that be known to whoever you think should know, and you will find a fellow traveler. Wherever you are in your personal journey of belief and understanding, it is important to engage actively in your relationship to your spiritual self. Your deep essence is not just a one-time thing that you discover and then accept and put on the shelf. It's always dynamic. It's a work in progress that you test and reinvent at the same time as you use it as a guide, a compass, a support through the many turnings of life. Your spirituality, your relation to your own spiritual self, is an always ongoing process. It should guide you to some consistency and direction as you respond to what life brings before you. But it's like a muscle, and then it needs to be regularly exercised to be ready when you need it. And that's where I'm headed today, discussing a variety of personal spiritual practices that might help you maintain an openness to the insights and beliefs that you know you value deeply. Almost all spiritual practice involves intentional measures to engage your sense of presence, that you open you to your inner sensibilities and thus hopefully protect you from the stress and chatter of daily life. To be most effective, spiritual practice should be regular. Some say daily or weekly in your life. The automatic nature of habits, like most religious rituals, is one way of helping you to ingrain the practice in your consciousness and maybe your subconscious. Spiritual practices, though, are tools. They're not ends. And all are invoked to increase your presence to yourself and your surround, and all can embrace your connection to the world. So let's get a little concrete here. The most common spiritual practices are things you know of and have probably tried to some degree, like maybe coming to church. You all get an A in that today. I'll begin with prayer and meditation. Prayer traditionally was seen as a conversation with God. And if that works for you, go for it. For those who don't hold a God image that would listen to what you say, it is still a conversation, but pretty much with yourself, alone, unless you're praying with somebody, and then it's for the two of you. The process of regularly naming your hopes and fears, your joys and your worries, this can be profound. I never held prayer as a value in my own life until I worked a few months as a hospital chaplain. My surprise was that a shared prayer process, which I had to deliver for the patients, it was what they expected, it was as meaningful to me as to the patient, even as our beliefs were different. They would hear me talking to God, while I would hear me speaking into the universe. We shared in all of the important meanings, though. The patients wanted solace and comfort and to regain their lives from the conditions they were in and experiencing. And I was able to help them through prayer. Meditation is another very common spiritual practice. And it's many things, and it's better known to many of you than it is to me. But as a regular practice, it also can have a deep influence on your day and your life. Some version of meditation is central to most religious and devotional disciplines, and it's shared across many religious traditions. In its simplest form, meditation involves being still and following one's breath for a significant period of time. Often the intention is to clear your mind of disruptive chatter, maybe finding a clarity or a sense of renewal in the process. Many swear by the value of regular meditation. One story, and I've seen it attributed to both a Zen priest and to a rabbi, so it must be true, makes the claim that one should meditate for at least 1 hour a day, unless you're too busy. And if you are too busy, you should meditate for at least 2 hours. Meditation and prayer are both central parts of the monastic life of devotion in many faiths with very different content. Following the original rules of Benedict, the Benedictine monks pray, chant, and sing at a number of prescribed times during the day and during the night, and continuously cycle their way through the Psalms. Routine, regularity, and depth of engagement makes this work for them as humble servants of their God. Let me name a few others, and I'm not going to go into all of these in depth. I might make an observation or two. Taking a true Sabbath once a week, however you can define a piece of time, just taking a piece of time off where you do not engage with the quotidian issues that you usually do. I shouldn't use words like that. That means daily. Silence. And if you can, silent retreats. Silence is a great way to move inwards, always with intention. Being in nature and spending time in natural places. I know that for many of us, this is a profound and important and common spiritual practice. Movement and dance, the martial arts, yoga, fasting, exercise, tithing and giving. Rebecca Parker, who was the president of our seminary in California, claims tithing as one of her spiritual practices. She does not give 10% of her income to the church, but she insists that she gives 10% of her income to things she feels are important, including the church. And she considers this a spiritual practice. Gardening, cooking, crafts like quilting, sewing, handwork, wood carving, whatever you do, social justice work and engagement. Now, these are all activities that we all might do. And some are things we might pursue for pleasure as hobbies. Engaging in one of these activities does not make it a spiritual practice. However, if we engage in these or many other common activities that you could imagine, if we engage in them intentionally, with regularity and commitment, they can become effective ways of engaging with ourselves, our essence, to what is in you and beyond you. How you do it, again, is personal. People have developed guides to assist in their spiritual practice, like using rosaries or prayer beads for keeping track of their prayer cycles, or building home altars to help them focus attention and concentration on the sacred and the fact that whatever activity they do at their altar is devotional. Now, I will talk about two possible practices, spiritual practices, in a little more detail, because I think each of these are easily approachable and adaptable in our own lives. And at least to get started, they require very little special training. Both come from the Christian monastic traditions, although from very different times and very different places. And as you might guess, I have found ways that you can practice them without them being Christian devotionals. The practice of Lectio Divina, and I have no idea if I said that right, was introduced by Benedict somewhere in the year 500s. The term means divine reading. For Benedict, the subject of Lectio Divina was always a piece of scripture, but I give you full dispensation to waive that rule. A succinct piece of prose or poetry, or maybe even song lyrics, should work just as well. The piece should be one with depth, speaking to something you care about. The first principle of Lectio Divina is that the text must be seen as a gift to be received, not a problem to be dissected. Let the text come to you. The second principle is that in the tradition is that it teaches us that in order to receive what the text has to offer, we must read slowly. So we read, seeing it as a gift, we read slowly. Lectio is a way of prayer. Before reading, remember that wisdom will speak to you through the text. During reading, allow it to evolve into meditation and into prayer and contemplation. When the reading is concluded, hold on to some phrase, keep it in mind, and repeat it throughout your day so that the prayerful reading becomes prayerful living. So Lectio is not literature study. It's something different entirely. The practice understands the words as a meeting place for a personal encounter with the wisdom and heart of the text. It is a practice we come to with the desire to be changed at all sorts of levels. It operates very much on an emotional rather than a cerebral level. Perhaps hearty rather than heady. It's about formation rather than instruction. Now, I don't know how this would work for you. I'm sure you have a little trouble picturing it, or what text you might wish to experience in this divine manner. But let's give it a try here. Open your gray hymnals and turn to the reading number 526, which is Trembling with Joy. Fairly quietly, so that we don't create a full cacophony here, read this as a Lectio Divina. Remember to first orient yourself as a receiver, then read through it very slowly, aloud, but not too aloud. Hear with your heart, not your mind, and maybe hold on to a word or a picture. There's no rule saying you can't repeat this process if you wish, except for here today. There is a rule that you can't repeat the process. We have to get on to a congregational meeting. So let's try that. Everybody at their own pace. Don't worry about who's saying what when, but try to read through this gently, receiving the images that brings to you. So this is Lectio Divina. You are invited to take it or leave it. The second one I'll talk about is fairly obvious, and you do things like it all the time. It's called examen, E-X-A-M-E-N. And this is from St. Ignatius Loyola. So you might expect it to engage the mind more than what we just got from St. Benedict. Ignatius was the founder of the Jesuit order during the 16th century in Spain. Examen is an opportunity for peaceful daily reflection and prayer. It invites us to find, and this is in Jesuit terms, it invites us to find the movement of God in all the people and events of our day. The examen is based on a set of 5 introspective prompts for you to follow or adapt to your own character and spirit. And if you don't use it to find the movement of God in all the people and events of your day, you can just think of the movement of your life through your day. You start by giving thanks. You spend a moment or two in gratitude for the gifts and blessings that you have received. Then you ask for light. You ask, and again, this is all in Jesuit language. I'll get to my own in a minute. Ask God to enlighten you, showing where he has been at work and present in your day through events, people, and places. Examine the day. Review the moments, noticing what has led to consolation, what has led to desolation, and your reaction to those events, to the people and places. Ask forgiveness for the times you have acted, spoken, or thought contrary to God's grace and calling for you, and resolve to change by deciding what in your behavior or attitude you will try to improve. In my words, these 5 steps will be grateful, recall the day, open and present to all of it, review and examine, especially when and how you manifested your best self, and when and how you felt short of your own values. Feel sorry maybe apologize or seek forgiveness somehow for your shortcomings, and resolve to improve tomorrow. Now, these are things we all do, probably on an ongoing basis. I mean, we're always questioning ourselves and reviewing things and all that. Yet, the idea is to take a specific time, probably at the end of each day, and take 5 to 10 minutes to do this intentionally, explicitly, and regularly. It's a way of building insight into our own lives. In other words, it's a daily check-in and review, maybe 10 minutes. Again, the value is driven by the extent to which you can bring concerted attention and honesty to the process. You can't just sit down, climb into bed, and give yourself an A for the day. That's cheating. Now, these are ideas. These are good ideas if they can help you work with your sacredness and your sense of the spiritual and come to know and understand yourself better. And once again, these practices cannot deliver spirituality or a spirit to you. Rather, there are ways for you to engage with the spiritual nature that is already present. None of these hold meaning inherently. What they do is create a space in you, in your day, in your life, a space where meaning and belief are welcome and encouraged to enter. A space open to hold your own holy as you find it and experience. Many people find things like this help them. Ashe, amen, blessed be. We now do something. Sing?
Let's sing.
What are we singing?
Find a stillness, 352.
We're